Okay, so let's get started. If you go to the main slide, okay, the first thing that I want to talk about is marketing. And the reason is our understanding of marketing sometimes could be subjective. It could be based on our personal experience, our own interaction with marketing campaigns in the public. I just want to make sure that we all have the same understanding so that when we approach today's topic, everyone's sort of in alignment about what marketing is. Okay, so what is marketing? So can we have the next slide? There are two types of marketing, and I am definitely oversimplifying this. You can definitely Google marketing and then read about it with tons of books that explain marketing in detail. But I'm explaining it so that we have a very simplified understanding of the core of marketing. And when we talk about the core of marketing, there's really only two sides to it. The first one is what I call, or what is typically called, product marketing. Now, product marketing is basically, if you're going as simple as possible, is just knowing why people would want to pay you money for your product, right? It's the value that your product or service provides to the customer. It's the reasons why they need it, they want it, and then they're willing to part cash, their hard-earned cash, to be able to get your product or service. So it's a set of values. And when you provide value, what are you doing? You're solving people's problems. So it's the core reason why your business, why your product, and why your service exists. Okay? So that's very important to understand, because the second part of marketing is about communicating those benefits. It's about communicating your values. It's about reaching out to your type of customers, the people that will need your product, and get them to buy. And that's typically what we call acquiring customer, or for short, acquisition. Okay? Now, within marketing communication, if you go to the next slide, you have the traditional communication channel. Marketing communication is communicating with the customers through channels by which they use. Now, in the past, before the internet, you'd probably see advertisements on billboards, on radio, in newspapers. And so you have the traditional, or what we call offline communication channels. And when we talk about online marketing, most of the time what we're talking about is about online communication channels and the methods by which we can advertise, that we can communicate, engage, connect with customers through online communication channels. And typically the ones that everybody know is email, Google, Facebook, but there's so many more to explore. Okay, so that's the two different communication channels, the main communication channels that exist, the offline one and the online one. And what I want to explain right now is some of the key difference between offline marketing and online marketing. Okay, so as you could kind of predict, offline marketing channels such as TV, radio, it's very difficult to get feedback, right? The interaction is very minimum. Maybe back in the day, your parents called in a radio station to kind of ask a question to like during a show, a radio show. Or with TV, you can write the television department and say, hey, why did you cancel the show? Or if it's in a newspaper, you could probably send a letter complaining or to add to a commentary, for instance. There is interaction, but it's very, very minimal. With online communication channels, the communication is instant. In offline, it's usually between the company and everyone else, right? So if I have a product to sell, I would advertise. If I have a story, I would publish it. But it's typically one way, from the company to the consumers, to the public. But in online communication channels, what happens is there's conversation. So there's immediate feedback. You can post something and a lot of people can kind of share their thoughts on it. They can comment. They could make fun of you. They can praise you. And therefore, your reputation is much, much more important and much, much more difficult to polish if your product is not good, if your customer service is not good, if your service is not excellent. Everything is rated. So if you're ordering food from Gojek or Grab today, you can rate the driver. You know, you can do all these things. There's all these interaction, and that's what's typically called the 2.0 generation or whatever. And now it's 3.0, 4.0, but that's a long discussion. But essentially, these online communication channels have a social or interactive dynamic to it, and therefore how you approach it in your marketing communication is definitely going to be a lot more different and requires a lot more effort rather than the offline communication channels. However, the offline communication channels are typically very, very, very expensive. The online communication channels are typically a lot cheaper, but you need to put forth a lot more effort because your competition is pretty much everyone. Everyone now is a publisher, okay? So the second difference is obviously the channels, but the third difference is performance, or your ability to measure your performance. When you put a billboard, or you put an ad on the newspaper, you might know how many cars pass by the billboard or how many people bought the newspaper, but you really can't get into the granular analytics of how many people read this and how long did they read it. Did they finish reading it? When they look at TV, did they watch the whole show? Did they watch the first 5 minutes? How many of them actually finished watching it? Whereas on YouTube, for instance, the analytics part for the publisher, you can actually see how many minutes on average people are watching. And this has huge impact on your content, because now you can kind of learn from whatever mistakes you had made in the past. You can learn from the things that you did well. You can constantly refine. And this constant refinement, which is in the modern marketing jargon is called, or in startup lingo is product design, is really about constant experimentation. So the great thing about online is there's a lot of data. You can kind of really look into the details of it, and therefore it's very, very powerful. Next slide. Now, with regards to what we're trying to help teach at RevoU is to help people become a T-shaped marketer. Now, you guys can Google this and study it yourself, but I just want to be able to explain it very simply. You have your base knowledge, you have your basic marketing foundations, the things that you learn, and then you have general expertise. What it means is that you study all of the general stuff that every online marketer needs to know. And then you select one or two things that you specialize in. So for instance, you want to be a Google Ads expert or a Facebook ad expert. Then that's what you focus on, and that's what's in the middle there. So there's more depth of knowledge. You become a specialist in something, but you need to be able to know a lot of different things so that you can work well together. Let me give you an example. So let's say you're an expert in Google Ads and Facebook ads, right? You know how to create ads, you know how to optimize them, you know how to measure, analyze, improve, all of that stuff. You're great. You're one of the best in the country. However, to be able to run super ads, you need to work with people who understand content. You need to be able to work with people who know how to design, who knows how to maximize something for PR value. And when you do social marketing, it's also relevant because you need to know what works organically on social media and being able to kind of boost it. Okay, so next slide. Now there's three things I want to share with you before I switch it to Mateo. First of all, I want to give you an example of SEO and search ads. So in here, I entered the keywords beli obat online, right? I'm sick, I need some medicine, so I click beli obat online. If you guys look at the top there, there's a ad, right? By K24 Click. I think it's the 24-hour pharmacy online. And basically they've advertised for some of these keywords, probably obat. So when anybody searches obat, their ads pop up. However, as you can see underneath that, they also are the #1 search result, K24 Click. That's search engine optimization. They didn't pay for that, but they had content, or they had some website or landing page that is very relevant to Bli Obat online. And Google has ranked them very high. And therefore, when someone searches Obat, not only are they seeing their ad, which they bought, but then they also see their organic content. They didn't pay for that, but they worked for it. Okay. And if you see underneath that, there's pharmaco.com. And if you see underneath that, Halodoc also is ranking well in search engine. Okay. So this is how search works. People search keywords, and we try to make sure that our content comes up as high as possible. And if we need immediate results, we can advertise and make sure that our content is #1 for those keywords. Okay, so that's a quick introduction of SEO and search ads. Next slide. Now we move to display ads. With display ads, I used compass.com as an example. I'm there to look for the news, but then the computer knows I love shoes, so they start publicizing the fact that hey, these guys are selling shoes. And also, they also know I need a vacation, and so advertisement. They know a lot about me for some reason. Anyway, so these are display ads, and then you can kind of get these ads displayed through Google, but also through each independent or other, I guess, companies that provide the service. Okay, so next slide. The final one I want to talk about is social ads. So when you open Facebook, when you open Instagram, you often see some ads. Okay, so when I opened Facebook just earlier today, I screenshotted this, and you can see that Magento is advertising, and then also belimobilgue.co.id, which is funny because I recently tried to sell my car through them, and therefore they're advertising to me, which I don't know why, but that's called retargeting. But anyway, these are when you open your social media and you start seeing ads. So this is what we call social ads. And there's, with regards to Facebook and Instagram, all of it can be handled on Facebook Business, okay? And if you look at on the right there, Instagram, it's obvious I need a vacation. They're advertising me to go to Bali, which is probably what I should be doing. Okay, so that's a quick introduction to kind of marketing, online marketing, performance marketing.